Sony recently refreshed their high-end point-and-shoot line with the RX100 VII. This promises to be the most cutting-edge point-and-shoot camera ever made, giving it features found only in their top-of-the-line full-frame A9. While it does have some absolutely fantastic features, it's also missing a few key notes that we've all been hoping for that they've seemingly abandoned since their Mark V. But after 2 weeks of use, how is the Mark VII holding up? Let's find out. What's up, everyone? I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. Okay, full disclosure, I haven't had this specific Mark VII for 2 weeks, but I did use one for a week at Sony Condo this year, and then immediately after getting back, I purchased one following that event, and then I used this for a week at the Sony a6600 launch event. So 2 weeks of experience, 1 week at a time. Totally passes the not clickbait threshold. Quick note in the beginning of the video though, this will not be a spec heavy or very in-depth video. If you would like to see more of that, I will leave a link in the description below to my RX100 VII playlist. And since I think this camera would be totally fine for any kind of online content creation, let's throw it up on the sticks and make it the B cam for the rest of the video. There we go, point and shoot goodness. Okay, I like this camera. So after 1+1 weeks of use, what do I like and what do I not like about this tiny powerhouse? First up, let's start off with the things that I don't like, because I like getting that out of the way first, because it's so much nicer to end on the happy notes. I like ending on the happy notes because I have so much energy. Easily the worst part about the RX100 VII is something that most of us figured out from reading the spec sheet. Unlike the RX100 V and 5 Alpha, the 7 is missing that built-in ND filter. Now, most cameras, in all fairness, most cameras, especially consumer level cameras, do not have built-in ND filters. But seriously, camera companies, more need them. More cameras need built-in ND. All camera companies that are watching this, get on it. So why does this make such a big deal? Well, normally consumer lenses can generally step down, or they can close the aperture ring down to around f22. So even if you are in bright sunlight in the middle of the day, you can restrict the amount of light coming into the sensor. And sure, if you are looking for a shallow depth of field, this is not going to help your case, but you could at least still get the shot. The RX100 VII though will only stop down to f11. And while that combined with the 1-inch sensor does do a good job under most circumstances, you're going to have problems exposing the image properly under direct sunlight, which means you'll either need to increase the shutter speed, breaking the ever popular 180-degree rule, or you'll have to buy some aftermarket magnetic ND because it also doesn't have a filter thread. So if you are in too bright of a situation, there's nothing you can do. Sorry, I really wish it had the built-in ND. Like, that's legitimately my one problem with the camera, is the ND. Another thing that's a pretty big negative, even though the older camera have it, but not that big compared to the lack of the built-in ND, the lens, even at its widest, will only go to 1.8. Now, I do, again, really wish it went to 1.8 for that little bit of blurriness in the background, and heck, maybe even a little bit better low light capabilities, but honestly, this isn't that big of a deal in comparison. Sony cameras are so darn good anymore in low light, and even under indoor studio settings like right now, I've yet to have a noise problem or any kind of image quality problem on something other than direct sunlight. And that's not just the RX100 VII, that's like any of their recent cameras are fantastic for low light, but this is really good. We're not even at 1.8 right now, we're not even at 2.8 right now. Since we've zoomed in a little bit, I can't see what we're at, but I assume we're at like a 3.5 or a 4, and even then, the image quality is fantastic. And that's the thing though, you just don't have to worry about it, and you can get fantastic quality even with it being a little over 2.8, because 2.8, or the aperture in this camera, is not like regular 1-inch censored cameras at a 2.8. Like, we've used the NX80, we've used the XA50, which are camcorders with 1-inch sensors, and they do fine. There's nothing to write home about, but even they don't look as good as the RX100 VII. And honestly, that is it. Like, that is it for the negatives I have about this camera. There is an honorable or dishonorable, depending on your point of view, mention for the things that I don't like, and it's the price. This is an expensive point-and-shoot camera that comes in at $1,200. That's steep as heck. Like, no, I can't I can't say anything else about it. That is an expensive camera. But it does have features and abilities that nothing else in the market does. And I do wish that it was around $1,000, but I can understand why it costs us this much to get this level of technology. Blah! Enough of the negatives, let's talk about the positives, because honestly, I'm in love with this darn little camera. Like, this is one of my favorite cameras so far this year. I mean, it is a beast, and it's probably the best portable camera ever made. I only brought this to me for the Sony launch event of the A6600 release, and it easily, every piece of footage I need, it captured. I didn't even bring a tripod, I didn't bring a monopod. All I did was handhold this camera and it got everything I wanted. So I don't say that it's the best lightly. First, like I already kind of talked about in the things that I don't like, that I actually liked, I'm kind of tricky, you gotta keep you on your toes. The indoor capabilities of this camera are insane. I mean, you've seen it throughout this whole video as I've been cutting back and forth between it, but this camera could easily be somebody's main and only camera. Usually the problem with 1-inch sensors that only go to 2.8 like this is even, I mean, the slightest bit of ISO increase brings in terrible noise. But here you just don't get it at all. I'm so confident in this, I even have it in auto ISO. Like, I didn't manually dial anything in, I just popped it into shutter priority, popped into auto ISO, and it just looks great. It's got a nice and clean image no matter what. No matter the time of day, no matter anything, you can get fantastic results. You don't have to work for it. The next up in the things that I like is the electronic stabilization. Now I know Sony doesn't really have the best stabilization in their interchangeable lens cameras, and I beat them up about it all the time, but here it actually works pretty well because it has both lens-based stabilization combined with their newer version of electronic image stabilization. And you can actually get it even better by processing this through their new camera app. Now, I don't because I'm lazy, but even without that processing, I think the stabilization works perfectly well for doing things like vlogging. Like if you're holding this camera, you don't really have to worry about the stabilization that much. And I really want to pause on this for a second. As cameras are continuously called on for more and more video features, it's really handy when a tool like this can be used as self-sufficiently as possible. So good internal stabilization makes a camera that much more usable, and you don't need a lot of gear to make it stable. However, I also really like how small this camera is, and that's not really surprising because all the RX100 cameras are roughly the same size, makes it perfect for tools like this Zhiyun Crane M2. I mean, these two devices were basically perfectly made for each other. And I don't normally get that excited about gimbals anymore because gimbals are getting kind of boring. They all just stabilize your cameras, and okay, the last 10 gimbals did the same thing. But this is awesome because of how easy it is to bounce. It's so easy to get the Mark VII on top of it. The two of these combined together make a crazy powerful portable powerhouse of a stabilized 4K camera. Like, I love both, and we'll probably be seeing more in a future video combined together. Weird that. Not only does the image quality in normal modes rock in the RX100 Mark VII, but it also has a 3.5mm audio in jack, and it's not just a simple 3.5mm port, but the 7 also has really great preamps inside of it. Now, it would have been really easy to just cheap out on the internals of this camera because we would have just been happy with any kind of an audio in capability. But here, the audio capabilities are just stunning. In fact, the audio you've been hearing has been recorded internally into this camera using a Deity D3 Pro. Look, it's right here. Image quality, audio quality, check. Excellent, good, I'm glad we're done about that. But there are a few smaller features that really make this the perfect all-in-one camera. The zoom lens is incredible. It goes from 24mm to 200mm equivalent, and at the wide, you can get like pretty close to macro level shots, letting you get so close to subjects. And with the high frame rate modes, you can do really amazing handheld B-roll of products or B-roll of your vacation location, or it's just like the perfect B-roll mode. And you can do that without needing a gimbal, tripod, or monopod. All of my A6600 B-roll was taken by hand with the 240 frames per second mode. And it's got Sony's class-leading Eye Autofocus in video that it is doing right now. And even if you watch my RX100 Mark VII tips and tricks video, it's so good that it will, like on my GH5, it was able to like zoom in onto the GH5's flip out screen and Eye Autofocus on me from that. It's insane. And you know what? None of that is the best part. I definitely wanted to save the best part for last. The RX100 Mark VII breaks Sony's mold so hard because it is able to record crisp 4K video downsampled from a 5K sensor for very long periods of time. Mark V that we all love so much, the Mark VI, they can only record 4K for 5 minutes at a time. Once you turn on the high temperature mode, you can record for crazy lengths of time. I've personally gotten this to record for 34 minutes before shutting down. That's longer than most DSLRs and other mirrorless pro level cameras. And the Mark VII fits in your pocket and can do that. Okay, look. This is absolutely one of the best cameras of the year. With all of the features and functions packed into this tiny body, you can literally use this as a solo video production camera. Heck, it's even got the flip up screen if you really want to monitor yourself. It can do talking head, handheld slow motion, vlogging, it records audio, super small weight, almost nothing, and has some of the best autofocus ever made. I mean, I love this darn camera. It combined with the A6400 are my two favorite cameras released so far this year, and I absolutely recommend this if you are looking for a small, discreet, all-in-one travel camera. Go buy one, it's so good. Thanks for watching.